Welcome to the Rare History Channel. 11 The most shocking facts about boss of bosses Salvatore Riina. Salvatore Riina, widely known as Toto Riina, was one of the most influential and ruthless bosses in the history of the Sicilian mafia. His violent reign as head of the Corleonesi family left a grim legacy that reshaped the criminal underworld. Here are 11 shocking facts about this infamous mafia boss. Fact number 1. Born into poverty and tragedy. Salvatore Riina was born in the rural town of Corleone, Sicily, on November 16, 1930. Life was difficult for the Riina family as they were peasants living in the dire poverty that was widespread in rural Sicily at the time. Tragedy struck early in his life when an unexploded bomb that his father and 7-year-old brother were trying to open for the scrap metal left over from World War II detonated, killing them instantly. This devastating loss thrust Riina into the role of provider for his family at a very young age. At age 11, he stabbed another boy in the back with a pitchfork. At age 16, he murdered a local shopkeeper after an argument. Despite his violent tendencies, Riina managed to finish elementary school and even completed 2 years of middle school. Number 2. Initiation into violence. By the time he turned 19, Riina was already marked as a murderer. His violent initiation into the mafia occurred when he killed Giovanni Lobu, a fellow Sicilian. This brutal act wasn't just a demonstration of his personal capacity for violence but was also the first sign of his loyalty to the mafia, marking the onset of a long and bloody career within the underworld. Number 3. Meteoric ascension in the mafia ranks. Riina was noted for his ruthless ambition and swift rise to power in the mafia hierarchy. From his early days as a foot soldier, he displayed a cold-blooded determination that set him apart from his peers. By his mid-30s, Riina was already a key figure within the Corleonesi clan, one of the most powerful mafia families in Sicily. He carefully navigated through the murky waters of mob politics, forming strategic alliances, and wasn't afraid to resort to murder to eliminate threats and rivals. Number 4. Architect of the Second Mafia War. Riina's thirst for power led to one of the bloodiest periods in mafia history. In the early 1980s, he orchestrated the Second Mafia War, a brutal and ruthless conflict that resulted in the deaths of hundreds of mobsters. The war was a power play by Riina to take over the Sicilian mafia, and he did so by systematically assassinating rival mafia bosses. This chilling campaign of terror not only wiped out his competition but also served as a stark demonstration of his power and ruthlessness. The war eventually ended with Riina emerging as the dominant and uncontested boss of the mafia, marking the beginning of his dark reign. Number 5. The historical Maxi trials. In the mid-1980s, Riina's wave of terror led to a significant turning point in the fight against organized crime, the Maxi trials. This was the largest anti-mafia trial ever, spanning from 1986 to 1987, with the unprecedented scale of its proceedings capturing international attention. The trial saw hundreds of members of the mafia being prosecuted, including Riina, who was tried and convicted in absentia. Presided over by Judge Giovanni Falcone, this trial was instrumental in shedding light on the mafia's deep-seated corruption and the extent of its reach, leading to the arrest and imprisonment of numerous mobsters. Number 6. Infiltrating and corrupting the state. One of Riina's key strategies in maintaining his power and ensuring the smooth operation of his criminal empire was to infiltrate and corrupt the state's institutions. He built an extensive network of corrupt officials, including politicians, law enforcement officers, and influential businesspeople. These connections allowed him to operate with relative impunity, undermining the rule of law and contributing to a climate of fear and cynicism in Sicily. His ability to manipulate these institutions showcased the breadth of the mafia's influence and power during his reign. Number 7. An unprecedented campaign of violence. Riina's leadership marked one of the bloodiest periods in mafia history. His strategy involved indiscriminate violence, targeting not just rival gangs but also representatives of the state. He orchestrated a campaign of terror that culminated in the assassinations of high-profile anti-mafia judges Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino in 1992. These killings were a direct assault on the Italian state and constituted an unprecedented escalation in the mafia's audacity. The shock and outrage generated by these assassinations amplified the government's resolve to dismantle the mafia, intensifying the crackdown on organized crime. Number 8. The fall of a mafia don. After almost a quarter of a century evading law enforcement, Riina's reign came to an end on January 15, 1993, when he was arrested in Palermo. His capture, executed by the ROS Carabinieri under the guidance of Colonel Riina Mori, was a landmark moment in the fight against the mafia. It signaled the downfall of one of the most notorious and feared mob bosses in history and marked the end of one of the most violent epochs in the Sicilian mafia's history. His subsequent life imprisonment symbolized a significant victory for the Italian authorities and gave hope to a nation beleaguered by decades of mafia-inflicted violence and corruption. Number 9. A life of imprisonment. After being apprehended, Riina was consigned to a life behind bars, sentenced to multiple life terms for his vast array of crimes, which included murder, drug trafficking, and corruption. While he was physically confined, rumors circulated that his influence extended beyond his cell, with whispers suggesting that he continued to direct mafia operations from within prison. These rumors, though unconfirmed, fueled speculations about the mafia's resilience and its ability to adapt to the changing circumstances. Number 10. The end of an era and Riina's ongoing legacy. On November 17, 2017, just a day after his 87th birthday, Salvatore Riina died in prison. His death symbolized the end of a particularly bloody chapter in the history of the Sicilian mafia. While Riina was gone, his influence lingered on, with his ruthless approach to power and his violent tactics casting a long shadow over the mafia and Sicily. His reign significantly shaped the landscape of organized crime in the region, and the ripple effects of his actions continue to be felt to this day. Number 11. Controversial revelations from Riina's son. In 2014, a bombshell was dropped by Riina's son, Salvatore Riina Jr., who released a book that painted a drastically different picture of his infamous father. He portrayed Riina not as a ruthless mafia boss but as a family man who deeply loved his children and imparted to them values of respect and honor. This portrayal, however, was met with widespread disbelief and outrage, particularly from those who had been victimized by Riina's reign of terror. Critics argued that this narrative was an attempt to whitewash the heinous actions of a man responsible for some of the most brutal acts of violence in mafia history.